Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Aman's Unfiltered. This is part two of Failing Your Way to Success. Now, in our episode last week, we explored how failure shapes resilience and teaches invaluable lessons. Today, we're picking up right where we left off, diving deeper into how those moments of defeat can spark unexpected breakthroughs and shift our mindset in ways we never imagined. We'll be unpacking back here with Kristina Reyes on how embracing failure as a tool for growth and what it truly takes to turn setbacks into stepping stones. Let's continue this journey. How important is mental resilience in the journey towards success? Are there specific practices or habits that helped you build strength moving on?
I cried a lot, and I think that's for me, being the person that I am, that was very important for me to be able to let it out.
Yeah.
Because when you are in the industry that you're in, there's a certain expectation of you to be a certain way. You have to be stern, you have to be strong, you have to be able to push everybody aside, right? But at that point, I had nobody. I only had myself. And I felt very frustrated at myself as well. But I did cry a lot, and I felt it helped to let it out. I wasn't necessarily crying to one person.
Yeah.
But just by myself, thinking of everything that had happened in my young life. I was in my mid-20s, right? Mid-20s to late 20s. For that to have happened to me at that age when I was supposed to be at the prime of my life, was messed up.
Right.
So I didn't want to bother people with my worries. So I did cry a lot by myself. I did go to, there were times when I would just take the bus, I'd go to the nearest church and sit there and cry.
And that
just
helped
cry
release.
and cry and cry and cry. And then on the way home, I'd be so tired and I'd just sleep.
Yeah, because it's emotionally exhausting when you're
emotionally
feeling
exhausting.
it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did take a lot of drives too. I think I like driving, despite what they say about the traffic. I feel that it clears your head. Driving to me is what running is to other people.
Nice.
So just take a drive. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you
I
end
love
up.
driving too.
Right?
Yeah.
You roll down your windows, listen to music in full blast, and just feel the air.
Yes.
That's
It's a beautiful
gift.
feeling.
It's a beautiful feeling.
I love
Exactly.
it. I personally love it. There were times when I was going through a very difficult phase a few years ago, and my husband will be fast asleep, right? Nivet will be fast asleep, and I'll be like, okay, you know what? I can't stay home. I would take my car and just go on the highway and drive.
Drive to nowhere.
Drive to nowhere, and when I come back, Nivet will be like, did you just go somewhere? And I'm like, no, just sleep. Well, now he knows I did that.
Sorry, Dr. Nivit. Now you know. Yeah, but driving. I love driving.
Yeah.
Don't you?
I love it. So, how did you make your way here into Bangkok in Thailand?
Yeah, so my wake-up call was when my headhunter called me into his office. It was a very short meeting, and his office was very far. It would have cost me more than 200 pesos to get there, and that was all I had, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I said, okay, I've been dodging him for a long time, and he's a good friend of my aunt.
Right.
So I felt I owed him that also, and he was more senior
Right.
than I was. So I went to his office. I sat in the conference room, and when he came into the conference room, he was visibly upset. He had a folder in his hand. He slammed it on the table, and he sat like that. And then he pulled his chair back and he said, "You know what, Kristina? Kristina is what my real name is Kristina,
Yeah.
but it's what they call me when they're angry.
Yeah.
My parents would call me Kristina when they're angry." And he goes, "You know what, Kristina? You're very talented, but you know what your problem is? You have no discipline." I had never had anybody tell me, you know what's wrong with you? Never. Just him.
Yeah.
So he told me, you have no discipline. You have no job. You want to have a job. You need a job. I arrange these interviews for you. You cancel all these interviews. what the hell do you want?
Yeah.
In Tagalog, he was saying, ano ba talaga ang gusto mo? And that is the most frustrated way that anybody can tell you, what the heck do you want? And I didn't know at the time what I wanted.
Yeah.
I was making a small living doing other things. And I thought maybe I could go on like this for a few more months because I just wasn't ready. But seeing him like that, seeing a perfect stranger care enough to call me into his office and tell me, there's something wrong with you, girl.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, oh, okay. I'm a bit scared of you right now. But I'm a bit scared of you right now, but also I'm a bit scared of my future now that you mention it, right?
Yeah.
Now that you asked me what I wanted, it was, I had never thought of what I had wanted past the point of getting sacked.
Right.
I didn't know what I wanted out of life. So I decided after that to entertain one interview.
Okay.
And that interview went progressively well. So at first with the local HR team, and then they brought the regional team, and then they brought the global head of communications. And then a couple of months later, I found myself signing a contract with Bosch in the Philippines.
Nice.
And I spent the first 6 years of my career at Bosch heading corporate communications in the Philippines and doing really significant projects and making myself visible. I also developed a different kind of reputation, somebody who doesn't mince words, somebody who can do whatever is needed. So somebody who could put people in their place. So that was my
Right.
that was the reputation I developed at Bosch. So when they needed somebody to start up a new organization here in Thailand, they were looking extensively. I was pushing somebody else to get into this role because the conditions were different at the time.
Okay.
But finally, they said, we're looking too far out everywhere. Here's somebody in front of us. But
You.
but she's a happy meal. I come with a toy. I have a son, so we're gonna have to make arrangements for her son too.
Yeah.
And so after that, I remember it was the birthday of Mother Mary. It was September 8th when I went into that boardroom to interview with all of the stakeholders that were involved in setting up this organization. And my mother called me. She said, "You're about to get into your interview. I just prayed for you, etc., etc." So break a leg. So I went into that interview. I was the only female, of course. You
Yeah.
have the gentleman from Germany. You had the gentleman from Singapore. All of them European, by the way. My GM and the Japanese head of sales. And I sat there trying to, explain what I know how to do. And finally, our president said, I know your work. So my only question to you is, why would you want to move to a country where nobody understands you? Because this is Thailand, right?
Yeah.
I said, well, it's an adventure. It's something new.
Yeah.
I know that I learn pretty quickly on the job. So, and I think you know what I can do. So a week later, I got confirmation that I will be sent on assignment. And my only condition was, let me tell my colleague who I had been pushing for the job.
Right.
Let me tell her myself. And when I told her, she cried. And I'm like, why are you crying? Are you mad at me?
Yeah.
She said, no, because you're leaving, blah, blah, blah.
Aw.
And she was my intern.
Right.
She was my intern until she progressed to different roles. So anyway, I was sent here in January of 2018. And of course, when I got here, I felt a little bit out of place because
Right.
it was a new role for an organization that had been already existing from the beginning of time. It was the biggest sector for our company. So people were like, what do we need an expat for? What do we
Yeah.
need a communications lady for? So it took a while for them to accept the merits of the job also.
Yeah.
So I spent the first year and a half trying to build that trust
And relationship.
and relationships, institutionalizing processes.
Yeah.
But then COVID happened. So I didn't want
Right.
to. My assignment was 3 years, Aman.
It's been 6 years.
It's been 6 years now. My assignment was 3 years. In the middle of my assignment, when I was ready to activate my projects, COVID happened, so everything stopped. So it's like,
You're stuck.
yeah. And also I felt like I was shortchanging the organization for not being able to deliver those projects because COVID happened.
Yeah.
Not by any fault of mine, it's just the whole world stopped.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to stay. And I think they appreciate the fact that I stayed on despite the conditions now being different for
Correct.
me and my young family, right? And it's been nearly 7 years now since we have moved here, and our relationships are better. They are not perfect. We still squabble with one another somehow at work, but there
Yeah.
is an appreciation of what everyone has to offer for the role that they have been assigned. And they know, yeah, that's Tina. Just go to her if you need something to get done.
So, would you ever leave Thailand now?
To be honest with you, I've been thinking about it because my
Really?
son is growing, and as a single parent, there's so many things that I don't have to worry about when I'm in my home country,
Yeah.
right? Schooling is expensive in Thailand. You have to pay rent, right? And in the Philippines, of course, we live with my family, and
Yeah.
school it's my priority. So I always tell Lucas, even if I have to, take every odd job, we call it lagare. Lagare means to saw. Like if
Right.
you constantly have to saw your way into the world just to, give your child what he deserves,
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to do that. I have no qualms doing that. It's just that it'll be easier for me to do
Yeah.
that in the Philippines.
So, just coming back to one of my questions that I've been wanting to ask you is that do you think society puts too much pressure on immediate success? Like, how can we change the narrative about failure?
Yes, society puts too much pressure on
Mm-hmm.
immediate success. That's why I like stories like the story of BTS, the
Mm-hmm.
Korean band, because when they started out, they were doing their own shows, right? They were
Right.
promoting their own shows. They were living in a studio apartment, all
Mm-hmm.
seven of them cooped up in one place.
Yeah.
And now look at them. And I think it's our generation that puts pressure on immediate success. I think this generation now has become more open-minded about your journey to
Mm-hmm.
success.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think their mindset is you don't have to be successful now. Just know
Yeah.
that you will get there someday. And if you have a partner who is like that, you know that you're going to get there someday together. So I think we have to develop a maybe a more open mind about failing, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a perfect road for
Yeah.
you, right? We hit potholes
Yeah.
here and there. And it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to define who you are. You have people who decide to shift their careers altogether
Yeah.
when they experience certain failures, and then
Mm-hmm.
they end up actually finding their passions. They realize they were the wrong fit for what they were doing previously.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're doing what they're doing, they're very happy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think more than being successful, you want to be happy in life, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
have
No.
the stress of carrying the expectations of society on your shoulders. It's difficult. Why do I have to think of what society thinks of me? What do I care?
Yeah.
Right? I'm happy I put food on the table. And I think also maybe the definition of success is different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Some people could think success is I put food on the table. Or for others it's I'm a gatherer. I gather people wherever
Mm.
I go and I get to influence what they think. So the definition of success has changed over time, and I think
Yeah.
we have to accept that also. For the older ones like us, maybe part of us,
We're
part
not
of us.
old.
No, we're not old.
No.
No, we're not old. But we have that
Yeah.
generation ahead of us that
Yeah.
thought when you're successful, you have to have a lot of money, or you have to have had this at a certain age,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I remember my grandfather, God bless his soul, every time I would give him a business card, he would take a few minutes to understand what's written in it,
Yeah.
and he would ask me, "So, what's your position? How many people do you manage?" Blah blah blah. And in my head,
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
okay, maybe position. I should maybe just tell you I'm a point guard since you like basketball so much. But yeah, so see,
Yeah.
their definition of success is, do you have a big team?
Yeah.
And a lot of times now, our roles are single contributor roles, right?
Absolutely. Correct.
So
Yeah.
redefine success
Yeah.
as different for everybody.
It's not always about money.
It's not always about
Yeah.
money. Not always about money. In the end, it's really about being happy.
Contributing.
Yeah, contributing
Yeah.
significant contributions,
Yeah.
meaningful contributions.
Exactly.
Yeah, being happy. And
I think being happy is one of the most successful things you can do. Being
yes,
content.
being content.
Yeah.
Being content.
I think if you're content, you're success,
Yeah,
right?
because you could have everything, but it could still feel empty inside.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
I don't want to be like that. you
Yeah.
know? Just go all out. Go all out with life. Be happy. If you're happy, you're successful.
Exactly. So, looking back, would you change anything about your journey, or do you see your failures as an essential part of your success?
I do see my failures as an essential part of my success, but there were maybe things I could have avoided.
Yeah.
In hindsight, is a beautiful thing. But I wouldn't trade all of those experiences for the world. They made me who I am, and they established me as the Kristina Reyes of today.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that. I mean, I could have just easily ended it all at the first sign of a challenge, but I didn't. I wanted to persist in life. I felt that I had much more to explore, much more to
Yeah.
offer. So I wouldn't trade anything for the world. In fact, I have a tattoo in Latin that translates to no regrets. Right? No
Amazing.
regrets.
So, what advice would you give someone who is currently in the middle of repeated failures, struggling to see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Thank you for that wonderful question. I feel like I'm in Miss Universe. It's a thought-provoking question.
It
But
is.
several things. One is to be optimistic and realistic. Yeah.
Realistic.
So,
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell, in her song "Both Sides Now,"
Mm-hmm.
had that to say about her song. She said, "You have to look at the world with childlike optimism but adult
Yeah.
reality." I wasn't born in 1996 for the information of Aman's listeners, but I do like the hippie stuff. Yeah, so you can be open-minded, you can be optimistic. Children, they come into this world not knowing anything, but they put their confidence in you as a perfect stranger, as an inexperienced
Yeah.
parent, and everything they experience brings a sense of wonder. But adults, on the other hand, they see things for what it is, right? So if you put the two together, you understand what is in front of you, but you also appreciate what else is possible.
Correct.
If you put the two together, it's a perfect marriage, right? It gives you a sense of control and it makes you confident about the decisions
Yeah.
that you're going to make in the future. The second thing, and my mother would always tell me this, is to roll with the punches. Just roll with the punches. You know, not everything is going to go your way.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Right?
Correct.
So you mentioned the word resilient earlier. For me, being resilient always connotes suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I do try to avoid that word.
Okay.
I remember during a great flood in the Philippines, they always said that the Filipino spirit is resilient, resilient, resilient.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I got tired of the word, but I got tired of hearing it. It's true in certain respects, but I do prefer the word agile because
Okay.
when you are agile, you will experience difficulties.
Right.
But you know how to adapt to those challenges and to pivot your way around those challenges before it becomes too difficult.
That's a really nice way of looking at it.
Yeah, be agile. If you can be anything, be agile. The third one is to shut up.
I like that one.
My dad would always tell me that. Cover your mouth, open your ears, shut up. And I would always think, why? But I want to explain myself to you. No, the smartest person in the room isn't the one who has a lot to say.
Yes.
So from now on, I'm not going to say anything.
No, no.
No.
I completely agree with this because a lot of people think by blabbering them out they are showing people that they know more. But
Exactly.
nobody wants a know-it-all, do they? Nobody wants to.
Exactly.
People run away from people who think they know it all. It's like you're demeaning us or you're looking down at us.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with this one.
when it matters, shut up because you also have a lot to learn from
Yeah.
others, right? And when you learn from others, that's learning how to
Yeah.
learn.
I
Right?
used to be like that. Like when people used to say stupid things, I'll be like, my mouth will go on and it won't stop. And then a lot of like my close friends literally used to call me ticking time bomb. You guys know what I'm talking about who are listening because I had that name tag in my group of friends that I was the ticking time bomb. So if anybody says anything that my friends know they're gonna trigger me, they look at me and they point like it's about to happen, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta change this perception about me because I don't want that to stick on people, and I'm not like that.
Yeah,
But
you just have your triggers, but you're not like that by nature.
but you're saying things that don't make sense, and I'm like, okay.
You feel it's your obligation to correct the stupid things that you
Yeah, so and I'm like, okay, I think I gotta tone it down a bit. And now people are like, why are you so quiet? I'm like,
Well, if you knew me before, you'd understand.
so what do you want? You want me to talk? You don't want me to talk? You want my opinion? You don't want my opinion? What is it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
There's never a
exactly.
perfect answer, is there?
Never perfect. You will never satisfy people.
No.
Anyway.
But then again, I'm not born to satisfy people.
yeah.
I'm born to satisfy myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, yeah. When it matters, you have to learn to just tone it down. Be quiet.
Yeah.
Learn from the wisdom of others and learn how to learn. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
Learning how to learn. My father, he said that in his speech when I graduated from high school. He said, while it's important to learn new things, it's never as important as learning how to learn. And in my head, wow, that sounds so poetic, but what does it mean, right?
Yeah.
Years later, when I was out in the mad, mad world, I understood that, okay, what you do, you have to persist in learning
Yeah.
because the world was different yesterday. It will also be different tomorrow. So you're
Correct.
going to have to persist in learning, future-proof your skills,
Right.
future-proof who you are
Correct.
inside, and learn to say, so what? I like that. Like when things go my way, I go, well, so what? I'm only as good as the next great project, right? And if I make a mistake, so what? I can just keep moving forward.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thank
me.
you for coming on to my show, Tina.
Thank you, Aman, for having me. And I hope
Anytime.
your listeners picked up a thing or two.
They better. Okay, they
Yes.
better. All right. Wow, that was a great conversation with Kristina Reyes. Now, we all know failure is inevitable, right? But it also is a necessary part of the journey to success. It can break you down, but it can also be the catalyst that brings you up in something stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more successful. Every great success story has failures behind it. And today, we've heard how embracing those failures, learning from them rather than being defeated by them, can be the key to reaching out your ultimate goals. As we wrap up, remember this: success is rarely a straight line. Okay? It's a series of twists and turns, setbacks and breakthroughs. The road can feel long and lonely, but every failure is a lesson, a chance to pivot, an opportunity to grow. So if you're failing right now, take heart, okay? Because it just means you're one step closer to where you're meant to be. So thanks for joining me today on Aman's Unfiltered. Stay resilient and keep pushing forward no matter how many times you are going to stumble along the way. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm your host, Amanpreet Kalra.